I've stopped trusting the U.S. dollar around 1971, and I just don't trust the U.S. government anymore. Big picture view of what's going on in the world economy, which is crucial because most people can't see what's past lunch, and it's a pretty spooky time globally. I mean, this is a big macro global problem we're sitting on.
The big round recently was because of the COVID pandemic. All the governments incurred an enormous trillions of dollars worth of debt, and their central banks helped finance that government borrowing by creating trillions of dollars. And that pulled us out of the COVID depression and set off a boom with all of the new money they created, especially in terms of asset prices. And it also caused high rates of inflation. Now, to fight the inflation, the central banks have increased interest rates very significantly. And even more importantly, I think, now they are instead of creating money as they were doing through quantitative easing, now they're doing the opposite. Now the Fed is destroying $95 billion every month through quantitative tightening. And that's sucking the liquidity out of the financial markets. It's like just, imagine a ballroom full of investors, and suddenly the Fed starts taking the air out of the ballroom. At first they don't notice, but then it becomes hard to breathe and they all run to the exits. So we're right now where liquidity is getting tight, and it's probably going to be very hard on the financial assets in the months and quarters ahead. In terms of interest rates, they've increased the federal funds rate from 0 to now 5.25%, 5.5%. So that's really very radical interest rate hiking in such a short period of time, just about 15 or 16 months. But in terms of quantitative tightening, they are literally taking $95 billion a month out of the financial system and destroying it. The $95 billion adds up over a year. That's $1.1 trillion, or about 13% of all the dollars. So this is, rather than pumping money into the system, making everything appreciate, now they're sucking the money out of the system. And we're getting to the tipping point where I'm afraid that asset prices, especially the stock market, which is very expensive, but other asset prices as well are likely to suffer and perhaps take quite a big tumble, because they're really very expensive compared to their normal levels. So they're very vulnerable to a correction.
Right. What that means for those who, on the macro side, is when the Fed creates money, it puts money kind of into the system via our big banks like JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, and all that. And then you and I walk up, and businesses walk up to JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, and your local bank, your regional bank down the street, and then you borrow money. So money comes into existence via debt. When the Fed takes money out of the system, that means there's no debt being created. That means no money is entering the system. And where it shows up right now is credit card debt is at an all-time high, because mom and pop don't have any money, and plus inflation due to this Green New Deal stuff that Biden's doing by cutting off the oil systems in America. It's crushing America right now. So credit is going out and the economy is crashing as we speak. And I think Powell and his friends are laughing all the way to the bank because they're not putting money back into the system. So there's two things happening, is that interest rates are going higher and they're pulling liquidity out of the system. So people can't spend money. And so that's causing this huge crisis. So as we said, pretty much there's two things, right? Like interest rates are higher, they can't borrow, so that's less money coming into the system. Plus they're QTing it, quantitative tightening it. They were drawing money out of the system. And then suddenly you see businesses start to fail because mom and pop don't have any money because they're maxed out on their credit card. I mean, that's that's the macro system there. Because what happens when those stimulus checks came out, they had those goofy guys that they were buying AMC and some other really stupid stocks. They were just jacking these stock prices through the roof because all the young people thought they were Warren Buffett or something. And what Kim and I bought with our stimmy checks, we bought gold and silver. There's always, when there's bad news, there's always good news. Always remember that, because when those frickin' idiots were buying GameStop and AMC, and they thought they were Warren Buffett or something, or Donald Trump, I don't know who the heck they think they were, they're idiots. So the good news is there's a big crash coming.